What's up? GMOVE and wassa to the MoveCast, the community podcast on the movement. Today we have some special guests from the US. We have the founders of Nexio, Charlie and Jake. Charlie and Jake, can you introduce us into your way, how you came to crypto, how did you find movement, and how did you come to found Nexio? And what was the idea behind founding Nexio?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Charlie. This is Jake. We're actually brothers, and we came into crypto in 2017 when we started mining ETH. At the time, we thought it was too late to mine Bitcoin, but then we saw ordinals last February and became very excited for the Bitcoin miners because at the end of the day, Bitcoin's very inefficient. We have these miners competing for inflationary rewards, so they need the more consistent source of fees and therefore more transactions. But we saw that ordinals did not yet have the infrastructure to bring the masses to Bitcoin. So both of us were becoming frustrated by the lack of tooling, the slow transaction time, the expensive gas fees, and just in general, the lack of infrastructure. Yet we knew there was a ton of potential because we are believers that Bitcoin's king. So with this, we over time we built a few different tools like a cross-chain trading terminal and helped out on a few different projects. But we did realize that we did not see the solution we wanted for a Bitcoin scaling solution and we saw a few problems. First, we saw solutions were not developer friendly. Second, solutions were still too slow. You can't really build things like derivatives or really enable the meme coin effect on Bitcoin like we want. And third, people are developing using a monolithic model where the network is not integrated, and it's very hard for teams to optimize on this. So we realized we needed a solution where any developer can launch these complex applications where they can launch their code easily and securely. I actually went to college with Rushi Manche, which is how I know him. So we were on the same floor freshman year, actually, and we've been great friends. So we actually ended up calling Rushi up and started talking with him about the MoveVM and parallelization. And after a few calls, we realized that we can integrate the MoveVM with Bitcoin to enable parallelization on Bitcoin. So now, in terms of Nexio, we enable over 30,000 transactions a second. Gas fees are less than 1 cent. We also integrate Bitcoin with ETH, Aptos, Sui, Cosmos, and Movement. So while Bitcoin typically does about 3,500 transactions in 10 minutes, we can do 18 million transactions in 10 minutes. So with this, for comparison, at its peak rate, Visa manages about 14.4 million transactions in 10 minutes. So we believe we need speed as well as a secure virtual machine to enable developers to launch these high-grade consumer applications on Bitcoin. So with this, we could build the derivatives, we could build the decentralized Wi-Fi networks, we could build a decentralized payment system that actually works as well. A lot of teams are choosing to use multi-sig designs as well. We are aiming to stay as Bitcoin native as possible. So we are using multi-party computation threshold signature schemes to prevent any single entity from controlling the private key entirely. And then specifically how we are interacting with Bitcoin, we are inscribing ZK proofs on the Bitcoin by directly settling Merkle roots on chain, ensuring a tamper-proof record of Bitcoin balances. So rooted in Bitcoin, using Bitcoin as our foundational currency, our gas fee as well. A lot of advancements in Bitcoin right now, like BitVM and Opcat. We've looked into them. We don't think BitVM is technically there yet, so we are focusing a solution on an Opcat solution and looking to build on Signet with Opcat as well. But we don't need Opcat to go through in order to for our solution to work.
Okay, amazing. So you already shared some information, a lot actually. Let me sum up. So you came to crypto by mining. You met also Rushi on your college, and yeah. But was it like you were on Bitcoin before, or was like your journey on Bitcoin starting with the ordinals? How was that?
Yeah, so definitely we always knew about Bitcoin. We always loved Bitcoin. We chose to mine ETH at the time because it was newer. And at that point, we actually thought we were too late to Bitcoin. But I guess what do we know, right? So once we actually saw ordinals last year, I mean, I just loved it. The idea that we were able to actually trade these JPEGs and that they were actually inscribed on Bitcoin and were no longer on an IPFS server absolutely intrigued us. And of course, the infrastructure was horrible in the beginning. My first ordinal trade was on a spreadsheet. And to mint it, I had to use a Sparrow wallet. And I'm sure not a lot of people know what that is, but we didn't have Xverse. There was no Unisat. So there was no quote unquote MetaMask or Phantom experience. So we saw the potential, but the infrastructure and the way to onboard people was terrible. The amount of hours you had to spend minting and trying to sell these assets was terrible. So we looked at the solutions and decided that we needed to take matters into our own hands and bring Move to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, everybody of us was already doing once any transaction on Bitcoin and stuff. I think the most people don't even know that there are similar things like ordinals on Bitcoin. And I think you already mentioned as well, Bitcoin is a very powerful network. I mean, it's like the OG crypto
Exactly.
network which exists. But you also mentioned on the same time there are some key limitations which you can see on the usability and stuff. Can you maybe summarize or dive a little bit deeper onto those limitations and how you want to address them with Nexio?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Bitcoin, it's slow transaction times. It is there's really no smart contracts, so we can't really have these complex applications that you see on other ecosystems like Solana or Ethereum. So what we're trying to do is bring this, DeFi experience to Bitcoin, because right now it's too technically challenging to do this and impossible on a lot of metrics to actually do this as well. So we're trying at the beginning to bring these high throughput applications to Bitcoin so people could actually see that, we can interact with Bitcoin, we could have Bitcoin as our gas fee, and then you can have finality on Bitcoin.
Okay. And why did you get such an focus on Bitcoin? I mean, we have different stuff already on ETH and stuff. Is it like, I don't know, Bitcoin being the OG crypto project more or less, or yeah, the decentralization, or are there like some metrics you really like about Bitcoin why you chose to go on Bitcoin?
Absolutely. So we think Bitcoin is the best money in the world. However, there are a lot of issues in the sense that in order to be the best money in the world, you also need the financial side of it. You need the expressivity. You need people to be able to take loans on their Bitcoin so they don't need to sell it. Additionally, they need to be able to actually take custody of their Bitcoin. And a lot of people, I mean, only 1% probably of the world would be able to take self custody of their Bitcoin right now. And if we look at it on a longer time frame, when we had events such as runes, gas fees went through the roof. It cost you hundreds of dollars to do one transaction. So over time, as Bitcoin's price rises, the fees on the network and fees for an actual individual transaction will be much higher. And eventually it will reach a point where the normal person cannot take self custody of their Bitcoin, because why am I going to take self custody of my Bitcoin of a few $100s if the fees are going to be a few $100s? So in that case, we need scaling solutions so people are able to take self custody of their Bitcoin. Without these self custodial solutions, it opens up the door for a whole slew of issues that we saw, especially in the last bull run, with rehypothecation and all of the other centralized issues that we saw, such as Celsius, BlockFi, RenBTC. There was last bull run a lot of DeFi, Bitcoin DeFi activity on other chains. I think it was around 70 billion. But of course, we saw a lot of issues. We saw the collapse of FTX, which was connected to RenBTC, and all of the other issues. And we know that we need a scaling solution so we're able to increase the longevity of Bitcoin. Like Charlie mentioned earlier, Bitcoin is relying on these inflationary rewards, and these need to be subsidized over time because every 4 years, the amount of money that miners receive for mining a block decreases. And as electricity prices increase across the globe and all the other prices increase, there needs to be some other way to subsidize these miners' expenses. And part of that is increasing the transactions and fees across the Bitcoin network.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in crypto, everything is about game theory and the design between users, miners, and so on. I think if you ask many on users of Bitcoin, you will hear something like there can only be like the Bitcoin base or like the base layer, but every time you go on like a scaling or something, you're losing security and so on. I don't know if you can tell a little bit how your view is on that. I think you already mentioned like some technical details, which you try to use to enhance this security.
Absolutely. So I believe that the biggest thing with rollups is that, or any of these real scaling solutions, is they enable applications that wouldn't have been possible on the base layer. So for example, if we look at Arbitrum, we have GMX. If we look at Base and Blast, you have teams like Fantasy.top and a whole other slew of applications like Friend.tech and a few others. And these applications are not possible on a layer one. There is way too much transactions and stuff that needs to happen. So these layer twos are necessary in order to allow for applications that aren't going to solely rely on that base layer. And additionally, we also view it as there's two sides of these rollups. Of course, you do want the decentralization, but at the same time, you also need to be able to have decentralization kind of gets caught up because what is really the end goal of the decentralization? Ultimately, that is the security and the censorship resistance guarantee. So what we view it as is we almost have a dual finality where first it is finalized on Nexio, and then it is also finalized on the Bitcoin layer. So the total finality doesn't occur until it is on Bitcoin and inscribed on Bitcoin as a Taproot transaction. However, the you don't need to wait for that to be verified on Bitcoin for you to continue transacting and using the applications.
Okay, cool. Yeah, quite technically diving into it. Hopefully, we can get our listeners more also on that technical side into it. Maybe on a more high level area, what kind of usages or what kind of use cases do you see for Bitcoin at all? Like you already mentioned some, like DeFi. Do you see something else like, I don't know, NFTs, gaming, or something else? I think you mentioned Deepin as well, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're very interested in high throughput applications, which are going to show off the speed and security of the Move language. So we're very interested in derivative applications, lending applications. I should also mention from day one of our DevNet, we are going to ensure that teams have all of the necessary middleware that they need in order to build their applications. So whatever they're going to want to build, they're going to be able to build it on Nexio. And ultimately, we want Bitcoin to be used as one of the main pairings across DeFi. So we also want to enable all of the lending platforms. Like I said, there's a big advancement right now happening within the Babylon ecosystem and people actually able to get yield on their Bitcoin. So there's been a ton of liquid staking platforms that have started to rise up, and we're very excited about a bunch of those. But ultimately, we do view the killer application of Bitcoin is yield. And where is that yield coming from? So have worked with a bunch of teams who are developing some CDP applications. One team's working on more of an Athena-like application where people can stake their Bitcoin. The protocol will give you a synthetic dollar, and the protocol will tell a delta neutral position on that Bitcoin. And then, of course, a lot of those yield applications and ways to generate yields aren't for everyone. And we do recognize we still need those fun and degen and speculative applications. We need to be able to have people that are paying attention to Nexio and actually want to make that transition from other ecosystems to start trading and using Bitcoin. So we do definitely pay attention to all of the other advancements in the space, and we do love how teams like Blast has been able to produce a lot of applications that had the add to home screen button to enable more applications directly on your cellular device. That's why we were really excited to partner with Up Network also to allow developers to deploy these mobile applications, but also not have the interference from the Apple regulations and all of that stuff. So very excited that just people are going to be able to explore applications that maybe have been done on other chains, but possibly not have been done on other chains. And we want people to realize that the other ecosystems are the testnet. Ethereum is the testnet. And right now, we will bring all of the best advancements from Ethereum and the other ecosystems to Bitcoin. And of course, there's going to be one side of it where we're going to need to make sure more Bitcoin maxis, they're going to want to make sure the applications they use are went through intense audits. Maybe they're able to take insurance policies out on their positions. But we also need to have stuff that is fun and engaging, because we can't just have giant staking pools with a lot of money, because at the end of the day, those are only for some users, and you need to get everyone interested, and you need to get everyone trying to imagine what could be possible on Bitcoin. Why should I go build it on a Solana? Why should I go build it on Ethereum? It's time to bring it back home to Bitcoin, the best crypto.
Amazing. I love the vision you have, especially going like back to the roots, going back to Bitcoin and not only sticking to ETH. Yeah, so you already mentioned different topics and points we will cover later, like the inclusion of degens and so on. But before we start with that, I would really like you to introduce your product. Like you mentioned, or as I understood, it's kind of a roll up, bringing up the Bitcoin on the Move language. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that, and maybe also mention what the technology behind is, like, or how you use the Move language to enable that technology.
Definitely. So I guess we'll start off with, how do you actually bridge to Nexio? How do you bridge your Bitcoin to Nexio? And so basically, you, the user, you'll take your Bitcoin and you'll send it to the vault, which is owned by that MPC network. And once those UTXOs are verified by Bitcoin after one block, it is then sent to the MPC network to generate that peg proof. Once the peg proof is generated, it's then sent to the verification layer, and nodes within that verification layer are going to make sure everything is good with that proof. And upon a simple consensus, the signatures are then generated to mint the actual Bitcoin on Nexio. And then in terms of bridging out, it works the same, but just with a burner contract. And then overall, I guess how we are connected with Movement Labs and the Move language is that we are using the Movement SDK as our execution layer. So basically, what that is going to allow is for developers to code their applications in both Aptos and Sui versions of Move, as well as it also has that fractal code interpreter, which is a backwards transpiler, which allows EVM bytecode to be deployed into Move bytecode. So developers are going to be able to deploy their applications in both versions of Move, as well as using Solidity. And also, if you're just familiar with Rust, don't worry, because it really just takes like 2 weeks to learn Move once you know Rust. So very excited about how we are going to have, from day one of DevNet, we'll have all of the tooling and surrounding infrastructure that you need to build your applications, while at the same time, you're still going to be familiar with everything, as if you've already developed on Movement Labs, it's going to be very quick and easy for you to deploy your applications on Nexio and gain access to those Bitcoin native assets and Bitcoin liquidity. And at the same time, if you haven't deployed your applications on Movement Labs or any of the other Move ecosystems, you'll be able to use that fractal code interpreter, which is really, really, really simple. And send me a DM and we will message you and tell you how to do it, and I'll walk you through the process. But very excited about the development and how easy it's going to be for developers to build on Bitcoin and build on Nexio.
Okay, cool. You said that you're using the Movement SDK, which enables the developer and user to get easily onboarded. Does the Movement SDK has other advantages which you can use? I think you mentioned in the very beginning the transaction speed, the security. Is that something why you came to Movement as well?
Absolutely. So, of course, the Move language, I mean, it's got way more than just the ones I mentioned. We also have it's built in with block STM. So, that actually allows for the parallelization and the speed. And then, of course, the advantages of the Move language. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg looked at blockchain and looked at all the programming languages and said to himself, the EVM is dead. How could we ever subject users to this amount of hacks that happens each year? It's billions of dollars. And then he looked at the SVM and said, yeah, they did make some advancements, but still not great. So they spent $1 billion and created the Move language. And ultimately, what I love about the Move language is its resources oriented design, the formal verification, and just how safe it is. There's billions of dollars right now locked across Move ecosystems, and there hasn't been a hack. It is the most secure language. And over time, we need to get more developers using the Move language. We need to show off the Move language compared to the SVM. We need to go build applications which can only be built on Move to show that Move is the superior language. Yes, you can go use the SVM and you can go use the EVM, but you're going to be subjecting your users to more security issues, and also just the usability of those applications are much slower and just not as good as applications that are built with Move. So we need to show developers this and prove that, look, the Move language is the top dog and the other ones are just, they're the predecessors.
Yeah, with this, we also have the decentralized sequencer from Movement. So rather than using a centralized sequencer like a lot of other solutions right now, we will have that decentralization, which is helpful for censorship resistance, and we'll also be able to stake something like the Nexio token on the sequencer, which gives it some more utility.
Yeah, and probably gives a better selling argument to Bitcoin user, which are now used to that decentralization and always say like, yeah, ETH is too centralized and so on. You also mentioned already some other networks like Ethereum Solidity, maybe Solana and so on. How do you see the other networks which we have in place at the moment? I mean, the Ethereum ecosystem, the Cosmos ecosystem. How do you perceive them? Are there, I mean, you said about Ethereum, it's kind of a testnet. Is that something you want to add additionally, or is that something you also want to focus more on, or you say Bitcoin is the main use case and the others are optionally?
Yeah, so I think there's two sides of it. We have one side, the Ethereum, where basically they started it off. I mean, Vitalik, he created a platform where developers are able to deploy applications, and the language, it was Turing complete. Um, However, what I think has kind of fallen a little to the wayside is it does end up being very academic and more cypherpunk, in the sense that you had these people, they're more interested in exploring ideas that are on the frontier. You have stuff like Farcaster, which is exploring more of these innovative and really on the border frontier applications and use cases of crypto. However, I don't think that these applications would be explored much on Solana. Solana has taken the stance of it is constantly shipping. The developers are eating glass and constantly shipping. And that has also led to a lot of applications and a lot of activity this bull run, which is great. But then there's also the side of it where it is a lot of just hyper financial based. So basically, we want to take the side of it is we want to be chewing glass. We want to be constantly shipping. However, we also want to be exploring the ideas on the frontier. Move language at the end of the day was created to create a social network. I'd love a platform to come along and say, we want to use the Move language to finish what Mark Zuckerberg was trying to do, create the super application using Nexio as the stack powering it across the globe.
Yeah, I think we also care a lot about interoperability. I mean, at the end of the day, they do have a lot of users on these other chains. That's where they are right now. But if we can basically bring this Bitcoin liquidity to other ecosystems and then bring the users to Bitcoin as well, it creates way less fragmentation, and definitely going to work on that as well.
Fantastic, yeah. Really cool to see how you're connecting the different dots together. And I think that connects really well to that what you said in the beginning. You want to onboard the Degen culture on Bitcoin as well, because I think that's something we didn't see too much on Bitcoin yet. I mean, we saw ordinals, but I think in the whole comparison, it's still much less and much less innovative than on something like Ethereum, maybe. I mean, all the CryptoPunks and so on, they all emerged on on Ethereum or maybe on Solana with the other meme coins we saw. Can you maybe describe why you see the Degen culture as such important and how Nexio maybe can try to bring back this energy to Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, first, we kind of got into crypto and stuff through some of these degen applications as well. I mean, we are the pure users of this. So essentially, like, we saw the solutions and we're like, we didn't necessarily like any of the solutions we saw. So we were like, okay, I guess I got to do it myself. So what we're really doing is also building for ourselves where we want to have fun with these applications too. We want to enable people to actually go on Bitcoin and use your Bitcoin and then earn your money in Bitcoin. If I'm ending off the day with more Bitcoin in my wallet, I'm gonna be happy. Like it's a good day if I'm ending up with more Bitcoin. So that is definitely part of it.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to that, basically, like I was saying earlier, there are the people that are going to want to gain the yields on their Bitcoin. I want to gain yields on my Bitcoin, but there's also the side of it as once I stake my tokens and start getting that yield, what else am I going to do? Am I just going to go back to Solana and Base? And I don't want that to happen. I want it to enable applications which people are actually genuinely interested in. You know, I get into the conversation a lot about Blast. Blast, a lot of people will start making fun of because the TGE event didn't go as people might have wanted. But the reality was, and even still to this day after the TGE event, people are constantly talking about fantasy.top. They're get mad when people don't tweet as much as they should, and they enjoy playing the game. And ultimately, applications that are interesting and intriguing and garner the attention of the crypto crowd are needed because without these applications, all of the talk on all of the podcasts and on Twitter and on Farcaster and wherever else people discuss crypto, it's always discussing when people make money. I mean, we got to think about what makes people go on their computer every single day and be in the crypto ecosystem. What is the actual point in which people say to themselves, wow, crypto is wild? Ultimately, it ends up being when price goes up. So, with that being said, people a lot of times they get into the ecosystem for the money and what it could potentially do. But then over time, it more transitions. Like for ourselves, once we started seeing all of the different Telegram groups and how we were able to communicate with people across the globe in a day in, day out basis, it makes the world a much smaller place. And that ultimately is the greatest part about crypto. How we're in New York, you're somewhere across the globe. And right now we're having a conversation about how we're going to advance the move, and the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I think that's probably the greatest part about crypto. So we need to just enable developers to whatever comes to their mind. They need to be able to build it on Bitcoin. They don't need to go to Solana. They don't need to go to Ethereum. They could just come to Bitcoin.
Yeah, it really, really pleasures and warms my heart when you say something like that, because that's exactly. I mean, I think you are a little bit younger than me, but like the beginnings of the internet era were kind of similar. People came together to the internet. Like you don't had those huge social media platforms which you have right now, which of course has some advantages as well, but some kind of the spirit was lost with those social media platforms. And I mean that's why crypto was created, why we got Web3 to give the people back their own ownership. And so I think it's a very, very important part to bring people on those networks, to let them feel the community, let feel them how they can use those networks and how those networks bring back some power or ownership to them. So yeah, I really, really love to see and to hear what you say, even also an aspect of the interoperability, connecting one network to the other. So yeah, that's really nice to hear. And of course, really nice to hear you really power and really want to enforce the Degen and yeah, funny side of crypto as well. And to maybe add on that one, some users which are on your Discord were asking themselves why you use a fridge as a mascot. So maybe you can explain us what the story behind that mascot is.
Absolutely. So basically, the refrigerator coincided with a 40-year life expectancy increase across the globe. And now, could some of this be in part due to some other technology advancements and the advancements in modern medicine? Of course. But with that being said, it is the most used kitchen appliance across the globe. There is not a more used appliance than the refrigerator. So basically, we view Nexio as a solution which is going to empower the increase in Bitcoin's life expectancy. Of course, there's going to be other advancements, such as if we could finally get Opcat reinstated back on mainnet. It's already on Signet, but there will be other technology advancements that are able to also move Bitcoin forward. But what we view Nexio as, it will empower developers and give developers the tooling and infrastructure that they need to build whatever they want on Bitcoin. They don't need to be limited by any idea. If you want to do a crazy degen application, go do it. I had a developer come to me earlier in the week and they said, I want to build a roulette wheel. I want the numbers to be equivalent to the amount of X's you have in leverage. And then each position also has a symbol. So let's say it lands on a number that is red 15 and has a Pepe symbol. It will take a 15x leverage short on Pepe for the duration of the game. So it could be durations 2 minutes. And let's say you do a $10 game, you'll have a $10 short on Pepe for using that amount of leverage for 2 minutes. And if you have the profit at the end of the 2 minutes, you have the profit. And I was like, wow, that is ridiculous. But I mean, sure, go for it. I don't care. I'll be your first user of the application. So whatever you have in your head, whatever you want to do, if you are, or if you're more on the traditional side and are building hardware or anything, let's figure out how to take those ideas and bring them to Bitcoin.
Yeah, with the refrigerator, we also saw a lack of memes and gifs in refrigerators. We saw there's no refrigerator gifs, and we're like, you know what? Time to fill the gap.
Yeah, if you go on Giphy, there were no refrigerators. So I'm like, oh, that's an open market. We are going to make the refrigerator great.
Yeah.
Nice. First time hearing about market analysis of memes and refrigerators, but yeah. Yeah, but actually it makes a lot of sense. And maybe to sum it up, as you as a refrigerator is the base to give some others like the developers to start cooking different dishes, which are
Exactly.
applications.
Yeah.
So a great picture you chose here. And yeah, I think it quite nicely connects to your vision which you have. And maybe when we talk about vision, maybe you can also elaborate a little bit what is your vision for Nexio for the future, and maybe where do you see Bitcoin and other decentralized networks heading to, like on a global perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So I view it as, of course, Ethereum is the test net, but look, the amount of advancements that they make and the amount of research that is done is going to allow us to push Bitcoin forward. But at the same time, not every chain is like Ethereum. I mean, let's just go on the second page of CoinMarketCap. All of these zombie chains are eventually going to decide, why am I doing this? I need to settle to Bitcoin because no one's going to use my chain. Bitcoin is the king and it is the most decentralized chain. So once we have a situation where we're able to natively verify proofs on Bitcoin, that is the end game in the sense that once that occurs, there's no reason for me to actually go build on other chains because then I'm actually a full rollup. I mean, Ethereum's not even a full rollup, so doesn't have full rollups according to the definitions. So we want to create an environment where people are able to do whatever they want on Bitcoin. We want to make it so Bitcoin has all of the technology advancements as normal money does. In order to create money, like I was saying earlier, we need the money to be secure and not be constantly being minted, right? But at the same time, we also need to have the ability for people to use that money just like they would the dollar. They need to be able to take loans out without selling it. They need to be able to take self-custody of it. Yeah. Anything to add, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of Bitcoin, like, I think it should just be a lot easier to use Bitcoin with any really fintech application you want per se. I think right now, if I want to buy a house and I have Bitcoin, it's not very easy to do. I think over time, more people are going to come to Bitcoin and really understand its potential because you can't print more Bitcoin at the end of the day. So with this, it's very important that we onboard more users, and they will come. Over time, people are going to realize how important this asset is, that we can't print more. And what we need to do is we need to allow these other applications and use cases so we can actually use Bitcoin for things like even buying a home.
Yeah, one more thing to add would be that we have seen ecosystems like Tron has been very big in Asia in the sense that people actually use it to pay for stuff. And this overall was the goal of Lightning. However, with Lightning, it is way more complicated than the actual base layer. You can't have a scaling solution that's more complicated than the base layer. We want to be able to have people use Bitcoin in their daily life. They should be able to use Bitcoin like Tron, so they don't need to actually go use Tron. I'm not, a big fan of that.
Great vision. Really love to talk with you about that. And yeah, maybe you can come back to like your product, which you are building at the moment. Can you maybe explain or tell us when your product is available or will be available? You mentioned already before the testnet, which is part of the development at the moment.
Yeah. So DevNet's coming soon. We've been heads down building. We haven't been to many conferences. We weren't in Singapore because we are just here developing. I mean, we sit here next to each other every day and work. So I mean, that's what we're doing
Cool.
right now. Yeah. So DevNet is coming soon, and we will be sure to let everyone know when you can start building on us.
Okay, cool. And maybe because I'm usually always talking a little bit also on the community side, because the MoveCast is the podcast from the community and for the community. How was your experience so far on the movement testnet, like the Parthenon? Did you experience like a boost on on your socials, on your Discords, and do you have something you want to share with the community, and maybe tell us also how the community can the best support you and come to you.
Absolutely. So, I mean, to start off, the testnet experience in the Parthenon has been unbelievable. It's been really exciting. The growth we had on socials and everything has been amazing from it. In overall, the community, we haven't put a lot of stuff out. This is our first podcast. We just have tweets. I don't even have the documentation out. We don't even have a website. Over the next couple of weeks, we are going to give you guys all of that. We are going to give you the website, the documentation, and really get cooking here. Overall, the community, I mean, the guerrilla movers and everything, you guys have been absolutely unbelievable.
Wassa.
I mean, just
Wassa.
we couldn't have we can't thank you guys enough. It has been an unbelievable experience. There has been so much help that everyone's provided with us. Whenever we're doing something wrong, people tell us what we're doing wrong, and that's what we want to do. We're building with you guys and for the community. So if you right now, you're sitting there thinking you want to build some application, message me, DM me. Let's get that built on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, with that, we are both in the Discord a lot. We like to go, any questions, any suggestions? Like, I just want to hear what everyone thinks, because you iterate and build through interacting with your users and your community. So the community knows best always, and you just have to listen and have open ears. So with that, definitely want people to, if you're not even a builder and you just have an idea for us who we should partner with or something, hit us up, and definitely open ears and want to do what's best for the community.
I did like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago one episode with Razer team, and they said exactly what you said, that the community feedback is very, very valuable and also needed, because in the end you're building that product for the community. So
Exactly.
the best how the community can help you is giving advice, and maybe, I don't know, some errors or bugs which you maybe wouldn't even realize, because they are using the product on a daily basis. And the Gorilla Movers, of course, support Nexio as well. Nexio is one of our integrated partners. So really, really love to see you going on and proceeding, and to see your testnet coming live. And then at that point, I say thank you for your appearance on the MoveCast today. Wish you the best, and would give you the last word to you.
Yeah, just want to say thanks for having us on here. Love spreading the word about Nexio. People will hear a lot more about us soon. We're going to have more docs out, and our website and everything will be out soon. So people will be able to find more about us, and just got to keep building.
GMOVE.
GMOVE, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate everything. It's go time here. Time to make Bitcoin great again.
Oh yes. Thank you guys.